Hey everyone. So I just wanted to come on and talk a little bit about my bar exam journey and how I was actually able to pass the bar on the third try. Yes, yes. So yeah, I just want to give some little tips. I took some little notes and everything. And yeah, so Yeah, so first, I wanted to talk about mindset, or even maybe I should go back a little bit and talk about my journey a little bit. So, I graduated from law school in 2018 from the University of Georgia School of Law. Let me close this window. So I'm in downtown Chicago, y'all. So noisy, very noisy. So yeah, I graduated from law school in 2018 from the University of Georgia. I went straight through from Howard University. I did not like it. Just to be fully transparent, I did not like the school. And partially was like just like coming straight from Howard, culture shock. I probably could have done more to like mix and mingle, but it definitely like wasn't like the most inviting experience. I would say I really wish. I'm getting text messages. I really wish that I would have done a little bit better as far as picking a school. But with that being said, like everyone that I've talked to from law school, nobody really like thoroughly enjoyed their experience. I feel like if I would have went to like Howard Law or something like that, at least I would have had like friends already. It would have been a totally different experience. So yeah. So anyways, um didn't enjoy my law school experience, but whatever. So coming out of law school, obviously everybody takes the bar right away in July. And I just like really struggled. I had moved back to Minneapolis, my hometown, and I didn't have anybody to study with. And so I was just like, oh my God, my ADD, ADHD, ADD, whatever, was like really kicking in at that time. And I didn't have very many resources to deal with it. I would just get distracted off of littlest things. I would go down rabbit holes, totally unrelated to like bar study, just really distracting myself. And so, yeah, so the first point I wanted to make was like about my mindset because at that time I literally had no interest whatsoever in like really pursuing law. Like I was just like, I'm gonna have to find something else, child. Like I remember I was interviewing for just like random stuff, like stuff based on my undergrad, stuff based on my undergrad degree, just like really not into it. I think that totally played a part in like the preparation, and then studying alone. I was doing Barbary and yeah, I mean, like, I did a lot of like the multiple choice practice. Like, I was comfortable with that. But I remember I didn't start practicing essays until like, I mean, like a couple weeks before. I'm just like just now starting essays, right? And so, yeah. So coming out of that, I failed the bar by 5 freaking points, even with all that craziness going on. And so I was hype. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just take it again in February, like 5 points. What is that? That's nothing. Um, and so I just hopped back into it. But mind you, I was working um at the time. So I had ended up getting a job in October as a law clerk in family court. And so by February, or let's see, no, by October. So yeah, so I had just started the job, right? And now I'm like, I'm about to take the bar again, and it's just like, girl, like, my caseload is crazy. Um, yeah. Plus, just going back to back like that is kind of tough. So I did have someone I was studying with that time, but child, the study, it was very hard. It was very hard. So I guess kind of still making some of those same mistakes that I made the first time around. I took the bar again in February, and I failed by 14 points. So now I'm like, okay, um, I'm not doing this again. This is annoying. I can do without like so I even though I was still working for the courts, I stayed working for the courts for like almost 3 years. And I was thinking, okay, when I come out of this, I'll find like something JD optional. I wasn't really pressed about the bar. Also at this time, I decided I wanted to do a pageant. So I was just like a hope and a dream, right? I was not thinking I was going to win the pageant. Actually won the pageant and um, had a whole year of service. And I remember I was talking to my sister, I'm like, maybe I should take the bar again. Like, I'm not really working right now. I'm just doing Miss Black USA, events, stuff like that. She was like, why would you want to double up? Like, that sounds like a lot of pressure studying, trying to be at events, trying to, you know, um, just fulfill my duties as a pageant, as a title holder. It's like, okay, that'd be a lot. So it ended up being like a whole nother year before I would take the bar again. And it felt like a good time. I had just finished like my reign pretty much. Um, I had gotten a job that was pretty, pretty chill and everything. Um, yeah, it just seemed like a good time to do so. And I was now in the mindset of like, okay, I have to get this done. I've been out on the job market for a little bit, and people were like, so you went to law school, like, what happened? Like, people were not able to really connect or connect the dots or see why, you know, why wouldn't you be pursuing law, practicing law right now? It doesn't really make sense. You must be incompetent or something. So I wasn't having much luck in some of those other, I mean, like JD type preferred roles, like contract administrator, um, contract manager, compliance, like that kind of thing. It was still kind of hard to get my foot in the door in those areas. But okay, so I'm seeing that there's probably gonna have to be a part two because we're still talking about the intro, just kind of like my background, how I got to this point. Um, so yeah, and I think I was talking about mindset. So going back to the mindset, I was in the mindset of like, I have to get this done because, I did a lot of work to get to this point and people are discounting me just because of, this license. I mean, which is a big, it is a big deal or whatever. People are like, okay, well, why didn't you go all the way through? So it's like, yeah, you need to finish the process, finish what you started. And my mindset was completely different than when I first graduated. I was like, ugh, I don't really think I want to do this. You start to learn like all work is the same work. I was doing the same work that an attorney would be doing, but not getting paid the amount that they would because, oh, you don't have your license. Okay, just do it. It's so annoying. Whatever. So yeah, it was definitely like also more of a positive mindset that I had, where I wasn't like quite as desperate about it because I'm just like, okay, I know if I don't pass, I'm gonna survive. Like, you'll just take it again. Like you'll be closer than you were um last time. Also, a part of what helped me with my mindset is, and I'll probably go into this part too, is having an excellent tutor. She came highly recommended, and I just knew I had a feeling like, okay, this is going to be the person to help me get over this hurdle. So, yeah, but stay tuned for part two. Okay, so I'm back. I'm talking about this part two, talking about how I passed the bar exam on the third try. And I started by talking a lot about like my background and my mindset, going into it this time, how it's different than the last two times that I'd taken the test. And then I started to talk about my tutor and how she played, on top of the mindset, how she also played a big role in keeping a positive mindset. And so I worked with a woman named Michelle Butts from Take On Bar Exam, and she, I mean, like words cannot express like um, how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to work with Michelle. She was recommended by like a really good friend of mine, and she was actually I actually heard about her after the first time I failed, but I was just like, well, I only failed by 5 points, whatever. Like I can figure this out. And then like I talked about before, when you continue to do the wrong things or continue, those bad habits, that can carry over from the first exam and you're not correcting anything, then my score fell by 10, 11 additional points. And so I knew right away that working with Michelle was going to be different because when I talked to her on the phone during like our consultation, she was able to break down things in a way that was like super clear to me to the point where I was like, wow, if I had thought about some of these things in this way when I was in law school, it would have made a lot more sense. And so I knew from that initial phone call, I was like, okay, yeah, this is who I'm going to need to work with. And, right away from day one, we hit the ground running. So we were, right away doing practice questions, right away doing essays. And I remember thinking, okay, I haven't studied for this exam in like almost 2 years. Like, how am I just going to jump back into it like this? And, Michelle just encouraged us, just keep trying at it. This is like a new process of you learning. And so going into it, we had our weekly schedules, which are laid out, and the monthly schedules that were laid out. And we did several questions a day. It wasn't overwhelming, and we were required to just use our cue list, which was basically the bar in a nutshell, a breakdown of everything that we needed to know. And to have it condensed in that way was super helpful for me because I remember being overwhelmed with material the first two times I took the bar. It's just like, where do I even start? And so with that, it gave everything that we needed to know. And then, if there were topics that you needed to go deeper on, then you could do that as well. She had other materials that would break things down much more. And so, yeah, like someone like me who's getting back into studying, I really needed a schedule like that. And the weekly check-ins with Michelle were especially helpful to make sure that I was staying on track because, I mean, it was a day-to-day thing of trying to uh, push myself in this way after a long day of work to have to sit there for another 3 hours and push through. But knowing in the back of my head, okay, I got to talk to Michelle next week. But she's always super supportive, and she has the ability to, push you a little bit, but not in a way that would ever tear you down ever. It was always like positive reinforcement where, I've had a tutor in the past who was kind of, mean about it. And it was just like, it would break you down even further instead of lifting you up. And Michelle, she just has a way of lifting you up and forcing you to recognize your greatness, essentially. And yeah, there were weeks where we had to do towards the end 3-hour practice exams, but because you have your study group there with you, it just pushes you to really pretend like you're in those test like settings. And that was so important because, you know, getting in that study room, the nerves start going and everything. And because we had sat down and practiced, sitting in those 3-hour stints for so long, for so many times over the course of the program, it just felt like, okay, just show up and do what you've been doing. Um, and so, yeah, Michelle was just amazing. I really feel like I got a mentor, a friend out of it as well. Just because I was so open about my journey, and she really pushed me and helped me to change my mindset. And that was something that I needed and, was not required. You don't typically get that. And I got that out of the program. And that is something that is just so invaluable. So, okay. All right. So, okay. All right. So I didn't think I had this much talk in me. I did another video where I was talking about the last video I was talking about my tutor and how amazing it was to work with her and being able also to have like that small group where there was so much accountability. It was really good. So that leads me to another point that I wanted to make was distractions, and distractions can come in many different forms. I know for me it came in the form of people, like talking on the phone and blah blah, that kind of thing. And social media, and what else? And just like TV and like stupid stuff. And so when it came to like people, like I'm very social. And when I first started studying, I was living with my sister. I actually was living in between because my sister, me and her, we started Airbnb. And so when we had guests, we would have to leave and go to my parents' house and all that jazz or whatever. So it was just like a very unstable and also like living with family, it would always be like somebody just busting in the room and talk to you. You're like, okay, well, I'm studying, and they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna let you get back to it, but oh yeah, this, and that, blah, blah, blah. And one time my brother told me, all you do is browse the internet all day. I was like, really, that's what you think I'm doing over here? You think I'm browsing the internet? Yeah, so there was a lot of distractions in my household. I also have like two small nephews, and I just love to see them. So it's very hard to be like, no, don't bring them over or whatever. Like, so I actually moved out. Like in the beginning of my journey, I would say like a month or two in. I wish I would have done this sooner. I would say like a month or two in, I realized, okay, this is not gonna work. So I ended up moving out and getting my own place. Also, I wanted a place where there was a study room that I could go, even though I didn't even go to the study room that much. But it was still helpful. Like, okay, times that I really, really need to get in, okay, go to the study room. Versus like me trying to go to a library or yeah, it just wasn't gonna happen. You get to a certain age, you're like, I don't feel like leaving the house, you know? And so, yeah, um, isolation, you have to have that time to just tune out the world, be able to turn off your phone, um, be able to set boundaries on your conversations. I deactivated my Instagram because that was a big distraction for me. Kept TikTok though, I kept TikTok and YouTube. Even though YouTube, man, that can be a distraction. TV, okay, I don't know if it got cut off, but I was saying TV. So I have this lockbox, and I would put my remote in there. I put my phone in there. So anything that can distract you, I would put in the lockbox. It's that real sometimes. Um, what else? Yeah, I think that's it for distractions. Just very important to let people know, like, hey, these are my study hours. This is when I can talk. Make sure you're cutting off conversations when you're supposed to cut them off. Because anything can just turn into like this tunnel of just whatever. I would get into like these 5 hour long conversations, and it was just like I never do that really, but here I am supposed to be studying for the bar. It's like any distraction that can happen will happen, and it'll be like intensified. Like everything is just intensified when you're studying for the bar. My next point I was going to make was doing practice questions a lot more. Um, the Emmanuel's book, everybody knows about Emmanuel's, I'm pretty sure. That's a good one to work with, even though I didn't even finish it this time around. I did finish, or I came very, very close to finishing Adaptive Bar. Adaptive Bar tracks your performance over the course of, I think, like 1,700 questions, and I think it's pretty much every question that was ever released. For the MBE, and that was really good. That was really important because at the end, even though my score wasn't that great at the end, I'm not gonna lie, I think it was like a 63, 4, 60 something like around there. But they tell you like if you get like a 60%, then you're supposed to pass. And so I was like, okay, that's what they say. I'm gonna trust what they say or whatever. But I wish I would have started that a little bit earlier. Because I would have liked to have finished it. That would have made me feel a lot better. What about practice essays? So, like I mentioned in the last video, the tutor that I worked with, she wanted us to start. We started essays right away, right out the gate. I'm like, I'm not ready for these essays. I don't have nothing to write. I don't have anything in my head to write. And so that became very difficult. And sometimes you just have to push yourself to write something, anything, whatever. I really struggled with that. I actually ran into a resource that was called F the Bar Exam, like FUCK the Bar Exam, and she has a really interesting method. And so one of her methods was like basically you have like these three or four phases where like you're gonna copy the answer word for word, and then you're gonna copy it again, but you gotta read it. It's like a whole process. But I didn't follow the process to a T because I found the book really late in the game. I was probably like a month out when I found the book, month and a half out, and I still haven't really been writing essays like the way I was supposed to. I haven't written more than I ever had, but not to the extent that I really needed to be doing them. So I started doing copy answers because I learned by writing things over and over again. I forget what you call it, but yeah, that's how I learned best. And that leads me to like my last point. I got these beautiful whiteboards on both sides of my apartment. And I started writing. Guys, everything. I tried to write every rule that I was going to use. I tried to write it like multiple times. I had like notebooks of just like copying, rewriting. Because you have to memorize. Some people say that you don't have to memorize, and it's like you kind of don't, but you kind of do. And like working with Michelle, she taught us to learn the law versus memorize the law, and that comes in handy. Oh my God, don't get me wrong. That comes in like that helps for those moments where it's like you just don't know what to say. Okay, how would you just describe what's something? How would you describe assault? Like how would you say assault? Just like talking, right? And okay, write that down. You don't have anything else to go with. But I liked that I did take the time to like handwrite and attempt to memorize some things and have some wording and some structure already like pretty much down packed from handwriting and copying. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna end it here. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to let me know. But that I think is how I passed the bar on the third time using those tools. And I mean, there are many ways that work for many people, but that's what worked for me. So yeah, I wish you guys the best of luck on your journey. Talk to you later.